Thinking correctly is not just about being positive, though that's certainly part of it. Thinking correctly is about understanding the fundamental principles that govern success and failure, wealth and poverty, happiness and misery. It's about recognizing the difference between facts and opinions, between what is and what can be, between the way things are and the way things can become, if we apply the right kind of thinking to our lives. You see, everything begins with a thought. Every fortune, every disaster, every relationship, every achievement, every failure, it all starts in the mind. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your life. If you want to change your life, you must first change the way you think. If you want different results, you must think different thoughts. If you want to achieve extraordinary things, you must learn to think in extraordinary ways. But here's what most people don't understand. Thinking is a skill, just like playing the piano or learning to drive a car. And like any skill, it can be developed, improved, and mastered. The tragedy is that most people never invest the time to develop this most crucial skill. They spend years learning their profession, but they never spend a single day learning how to think correctly about their profession. They study how to make money, but they never study how to think about money in a way that attracts it rather than repels it. Let me tell you about the first principle of correct thinking. You must think in terms of cause and effect. Everything in life operates according to the law of cause and effect. For every effect in your life, there is a cause. For every result you're getting, there are actions you're taking or not taking. For every condition you find yourself in, there are thoughts you've been thinking and decisions you've been making. Most people think backwards. They look at their current results and try to explain them by their circumstances. They say, I'm broke because the economy is bad, or I can't succeed because I don't have the right education, or I can't be happy because of what happened to me in the past. This is backwards thinking, and it will keep you trapped in mediocrity forever. Correct thinking says this: I am broke because of the financial decisions I have made and continue to make. If I want to change my financial situation, I must change my thinking about money and my actions with money. Correct thinking says, I haven't achieved the success I want because I haven't developed the skills, the discipline, and the habits that success requires. If I want different results, I must become a different person. This is the difference between people who succeed and people who struggle. Successful people take responsibility for their results. They understand that they are the cause of their life, not the effect of their circumstances. They don't blame the government, the economy, the upbringing, or their bad luck. They look in the mirror and say, if my life is going to change, I must change. If things are going to get better, I must get better. If I want more, I must become more. Now, the second principle of correct thinking is this: you must think in terms of possibilities rather than limitations. Most people have been trained to think about what they can't do, what they don't have, and what's not possible for them. They've been programmed to see obstacles instead of opportunities, problems instead of possibilities. But here's what I've learned in my years of studying successful people. They all share one common trait. They think in terms of what's possible rather than what's impossible. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. They see solutions where others see problems. They see potential where others see limitations. Let me give you an example. When most people look at a business opportunity, the first thing they think about is what could go wrong. They think about the competition, the risks, the possibility of failure. They think about all the reasons why it might not work. And because they focus on these negative possibilities, they either don't take action at all, or they take action with so much doubt and fear that they sabotage their own success. But successful people think differently. When they look at a business opportunity, they think about what could go right. They think about the potential rewards, the possibilities for growth, the ways it could succeed. They don't ignore the risks, but they don't dwell on them either. They acknowledge the challenges and then focus their energy on finding ways to overcome them. This difference in thinking creates dramatically different results. The person who thinks about what could go wrong attracts exactly what they're thinking about. The person who thinks about what could go right positions themselves to take advantage of opportunities that others miss. Now, let me share with you the third principle of correct thinking. You must think about solutions rather than problems. This might sound simple, but it's profound in its implications. Most people are problem-focused. When something goes wrong, they spend their time and energy talking about the problem, analyzing the problem, complaining about the problem, and assigning blame for the problem. But successful people are solution-focused. When they encounter a problem, they ask themselves, how can I solve this? What can I learn from this? How can I use this challenge to become stronger, smarter, or more capable? They understand that problems are not roadblocks, they're stepping stones. Every problem contains the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit if you think about it correctly. Let me tell you something that changed my life. The quality of questions you ask determines the quality of answers you get. If you ask, why does this always happen to me, you'll get answers that make you feel like a victim. If you ask, how can I prevent this from happening again, you'll get answers that make you stronger and wiser. If you ask, what's wrong with people, you'll find plenty of evidence to support your negative view. If you ask, how can I better serve people, you'll discover opportunities to create value and build relationships. Your brain is like a computer. It will work tirelessly to answer whatever questions you program into it. The problem is, most people are asking the wrong questions. They're asking questions that focus on what they don't want rather than what they do want. They're asking questions that make them feel powerless rather than empowered. This brings me to the fourth principle of correct thinking. You must think about what you want rather than what you don't want. This principle is so important, yet it's violated by most people every single day. They spend their time thinking about their debts instead of their wealth, their problems instead of their goals, their fears instead of their dreams. But here's what I've discovered. Whatever you focus on expands. If you focus on your problems, you'll get more problems. If you focus on your debts, you'll attract more debt. If you focus on what's wrong with your life, you'll find more things to be wrong. But if you focus on your goals, you'll find ways to achieve them. If you focus on opportunities, you'll attract more opportunities. If you focus on what's good in your life, you'll find more reasons to be grateful. The mind is like a garden. Whatever seeds you plant are the ones that will grow. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and negativity, that's what will flourish in your life. But if you plant seeds of faith, hope, and possibility, those are the qualities that will manifest in your experience. Most people don't understand this principle because they've never been taught to pay attention to their thoughts. They let their minds wander wherever they want to go, thinking whatever thoughts happen to pop up. They don't realize that their thoughts are creating their reality, shaping their future, and determining their destiny. But once you understand this principle, you can take control of your thinking and therefore your life. You can choose to think thoughts that serve you rather than thoughts that sabotage you. You can focus on what you want to create rather than what you want to avoid. You can direct your mental energy toward your goals rather than your fears. Now let me share the fifth principle of correct thinking. You must think long-term rather than short-term. This is perhaps one of the most critical distinctions between successful people and unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people think in terms of immediate gratification. They make decisions based on what feels good right now rather than what will be good for them in the future. But successful people think in terms of future consequences. They're willing to do things today that others won't do so they can have things tomorrow that others won't have. They understand that success is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not about quick fixes, it's about consistent, daily actions compounded over time. Let me give you an example that illustrates this principle. Two people start their careers at the same time, with the same education, the same opportunities, and the same salary. One person thinks short-term. They spend everything they make on immediate pleasures and comforts. They buy things they want right now without thinking about their financial future. They don't invest in their education, their skills, or their personal development because the benefits aren't immediate. The other person thinks long-term. They live below their means and invest the difference. They spend time and money developing new skills, even though the payoff might not come for years. They build relationships and reputation, understanding that these investments will compound over time. They make sacrifices today for rewards tomorrow. After 10, 20, or 30 years, where do you think these two people will be? The short-term thinker will likely be in the same place they started or worse. They'll have immediate gratification but long-term regret. The long-term thinker will have created wealth, developed expertise, and built a life of significance. They'll have temporary sacrifice but permanent improvement. This principle applies to every area of life. Your health is the result of thinking long-term about your daily habits. Your relationships are the result of thinking long-term about how you treat people. Your finances are the result of thinking long-term about your spending and investing decisions. Your career is the result of thinking long-term about your skills and reputation. The sixth principle of correct thinking is this: you must think in terms of value rather than cost. Most people, when they're making decisions, think first about what something will cost them. They think about the price, the effort, the time, the risk, and because they focus primarily on the cost, they often miss incredible opportunities. But successful people think primarily about value. When they're considering an investment in their education, they don't think first about the tuition cost. They think about the increased earning potential. When they're considering starting a business, they don't think first about the startup costs. They think about the potential profits and the value they can create for their customers. This doesn't mean they ignore costs. Successful people are very aware of costs, but they evaluate costs in the context of value. They ask, what will this cost me? But they also ask, what will this be worth to me? They understand that the most expensive decision is often the decision not to invest in something that could dramatically improve their life. I've seen people refuse to invest a few $100s in a book or seminar that could teach them skills worth millions. I've seen people refuse to spend money on their health and then spend 10 times that amount dealing with the consequences of poor health. I've seen people refuse to invest in their relationships and then pay enormous costs in divorce courts and broken families. Correct thinking says this: I can't afford not to invest in anything that will make me more valuable as a person. Whether it's education, health, relationships, or personal development, if it increases your value, it's worth the cost. The seventh principle of correct thinking involves understanding the power of compound effect. Most people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions repeated over time. They want dramatic results from dramatic actions. They want to get rich quick, lose weight fast, or transform their lives overnight. But success doesn't work that way. Success is the result of small disciplines repeated daily. It's reading a few pages of a good book each day, not reading an entire library in a weekend. It's putting aside a small amount of money each month, not trying to save a fortune all at once. It's treating people with kindness and respect consistently, not performing grand gestures occasionally. The problem is that small actions don't seem significant in the moment. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't make you obese. Missing one workout doesn't make you out of shape. Spending a little more than you earn doesn't make you broke. But these small actions repeated consistently over time create dramatic results. The same is true in the positive direction. Eating one healthy meal doesn't make you fit. Doing one workout doesn't make you strong. Saving a few dollars doesn't make you wealthy. But these positive actions, repeated consistently over time, create extraordinary results. Most people quit too soon because they don't see immediate results from their positive actions. They read a few books and expect to become brilliant. They save money for a few months and expect to become wealthy. They're kind to their spouse for a few days and expect their marriage to be transformed. But correct thinking understands that success is like planting an oak tree. You plant a small acorn, water it, protect it, and nurture it. For months, even years, you see very little progress above ground. But underground, an incredible root system is developing. Then one day you have a mighty oak tree that can withstand any storm. Your success works the same way. The small daily disciplines you practice today may not seem significant, but they're developing the root system of your success. The knowledge you're gaining, the habits you're forming, the character you're building, the relationships you're nurturing, these are creating the foundation for your future achievements. The eighth principle of correct thinking is about understanding the difference between being interested and being committed. Most people are interested in success. They're interested in wealth, health, happiness, and achievement. But there's a world of difference between being interested and being committed. When you're interested in something, you do it when it's convenient. When you're committed to something, you do it no matter what. When you're interested, you find excuses. When you're committed, you find ways. When you're interested, you quit when things get difficult. When you're committed, you persist until you succeed. Let me tell you what commitment really means. Commitment means burning your bridges. It means deciding that failure is not an option and that you will find a way to succeed no matter what obstacles you encounter. It means being willing to pay whatever price success demands for as long as it takes. Most people never make this level of commitment to anything important in lives. They keep escape routes open. They have backup plans that they can retreat to when things get tough. They want success, but they're not willing to do whatever it takes to achieve it. But successful people understand that commitment is what transforms a promise into reality. It's the word that speaks boldly of your intentions. It's the action that speaks louder than words. It's making the time when there is none. It's coming through time after time after time, year after year after year. Commitment is the stuff character is made of, the power to change the face of things. When you make a true commitment, several things happen. First, you stop looking for easy ways out. Second, you start looking for ways to make it work instead of reasons why it won't work. Third, you begin to develop the persistence and determination that all successful people possess. Fourth, you start to attract the resources, people, and opportunities that will help you succeed. The universe has a funny way of supporting people who are truly committed to their goals. Doors open, people appear, resources become available, and solutions emerge. But these things only happen when your commitment is real and total. Now let me share with you the 9th principle of correct thinking. You must think in terms of personal responsibility rather than blame. This principle might be the most important one of all because it determines whether you see yourself as the victim of your circumstances or the architect of your future. Most people have developed the habit of blaming others for their problems and their lack of success. They blame their parents for not giving them a better start. They blame their teachers for not teaching them properly. They blame their boss for not paying them enough. They blame the government for not creating better opportunities. They blame the economy for not cooperating with their plans. But here's what I've learned. Blame is a losing game. When you blame others for your problems, you give away your power to solve them. When you make others responsible for your success, you make yourself dependent on their actions. When you focus on what others should do differently, you ignore what you could do differently. Successful people think differently. They take responsibility for their results, both good and bad. They understand that they are where they are because of the choices they have made and the actions they have taken. They don't blame circumstances, they change them. They don't blame other people, they influence them. They don't blame the past, they create a better future. This doesn't mean that circumstances, other people, and past events don't affect your life. Of course they do. But successful people understand that while they can't always control what happens to them, they can always control how they respond to what happens to them. They focus on what they can control rather than what they can't control. Taking personal responsibility is liberating because it puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. When you stop blaming others, you start empowering yourself. When you stop making excuses, you start making progress. When you stop complaining about your circumstances, you start changing them. But personal responsibility goes beyond just taking blame for your failures. It also means taking credit for your successes and understanding that you have the power to create even greater success in the future. It means recognizing that your thoughts, decisions, and actions are the primary factors that determine your results. The 10th principle of correct thinking involves understanding the importance of association. The people you spend time with have an enormous influence on your thinking and therefore on your life. You become like the people you associate with. You adopt their attitudes, their beliefs, their habits, and their standards. If you spend time with people who complain constantly, you'll develop the habit of complaining. If you spend time with people who make excuses, you'll start making excuses. If you spend time with people who have limited dreams and low expectations, your dreams and expectations will shrink to match theirs. But if you spend time with positive, successful, achievement-oriented people, you'll develop positive, successful, achievement-oriented thinking. You'll raise your standards, expand your vision, and develop habits and attitudes that lead to success. Most people don't pay attention to this principle. They let association happen by accident rather than by design. They spend time with whoever happens to be convenient rather than with people who will challenge them to grow and improve. But successful people are very careful about their associations. They seek out people who are already where they want to be. They find mentors who can teach them and peers who can challenge them. They limit their time with negative, energy-draining people and maximize their time with positive, inspiring people. This doesn't mean you should be unkind to anyone or that you should abandon people who need your help. But it does mean you should be strategic about where you invest your time and emotional energy. Remember, you only have so much time and energy, and how you invest these precious resources will largely determine your future. The 11th principle of correct thinking is about developing a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities, intelligence, and talents are fixed traits that cannot be significantly developed. They think they're either good at something or they're not, smart or not smart, talented or not talented. But people with a growth mindset believe that their abilities can be developed through dedication, hard work, and learning from failure. They see challenges as opportunities to grow, effort as the path to mastery, and failure as information that helps them improve. This difference in mindset creates dramatically different results in life. People with a fixed mindset tend to avoid challenges because they don't want to risk failing and looking incapable. They give up easily when they encounter obstacles because they interpret difficulty as evidence that they don't have what it takes. They see effort as a sign of inadequacy rather than as the price of improvement. People with a growth mindset embrace challenges because they see them as opportunities to learn and improve. They persist in the face of obstacles because they understand that difficulty is part of the learning process. They see effort as the path to expertise and mastery. The most successful people in every field have a growth mindset. They're constantly learning, growing, and developing new capabilities. They don't believe they know everything. They believe they can learn anything they need to learn. They don't see failure as a permanent condition. They see it as temporary feedback that helps them adjust their approach. Developing a growth mindset requires changing the way you think about ability, effort, and failure. Instead of asking, am I good at this? Ask, how can I get better at this? Instead of thinking I failed, think I learned. Instead of believing I can't do this, believe I can't do this yet. The 12th principle of correct thinking involves understanding the power of purpose. People who think correctly understand that having a clear, compelling purpose is one of the most important factors in achieving success and fulfillment. Purpose gives direction to your thinking, energy to your actions, and meaning to your efforts. Without purpose, people drift through life like ships without rudders. They may stay busy, but they don't make progress. They may work hard, but they don't work effectively. They may achieve some success, but it feels hollow and unsatisfying because it's not connected to something meaningful. But with purpose, everything changes. When you have a clear purpose, decision-making becomes easier because you can evaluate choices based on whether they move you toward or away from your purpose. Motivation becomes stronger because you're not just working for money or recognition. You're working for something that matters to you deeply. Purpose also provides resilience when you face challenges and setbacks. When you know why you're doing something, you can endure almost any hardship to achieve it. When your purpose is strong enough, you'll find ways to overcome obstacles that would stop other people. Your purpose doesn't have to be grandiose or world-changing. It just has to be meaningful to you. It could be providing a better life for your family, making a contribution to your community, developing your talents to their fullest potential, or helping others achieve their dreams. The key is that it must resonate with your deepest values and aspirations. Once you discover your purpose, let it guide your thinking. When you're making plans, ask yourself, does this align with my purpose? When you're facing challenges, remind yourself why your goal is important to you. When you're tempted to quit, reconnect with the deeper meaning behind your efforts. The 13th principle of correct thinking is about understanding the relationship between thinking and feeling. Many people believe that their feelings control their thoughts, but the truth is exactly the opposite. Your thoughts control your feelings, and your feelings influence your actions, and your actions create your results. This understanding is incredibly powerful because it means you can change how you feel by changing how you think. If you're feeling discouraged, you can think about your past successes and future possibilities. If you're feeling anxious, you can think about the resources and capabilities you have to handle whatever challenges come your way. If you're feeling unmotivated, you can think about your goals and the reasons they're important to you. Most people have this backwards. They wait to feel motivated before they take action. They wait to feel confident before they try something new. They wait to feel ready before they begin working toward their goals. But successful people understand that action creates feeling, not the other way around. When you act as if you're confident, you begin to feel confident. When you act as if you're motivated, motivation increases. When you act as if you're successful, you start to think and behave in ways that create success. This principle also explains why successful people seem to have such positive attitudes. It's not that they never face challenges or experience negative emotions. It's that they've learned to manage their thinking in ways that create positive emotions and effective actions. They don't deny reality or ignore problems, but they focus on solutions rather than problems, possibilities rather than limitations, what they can control rather than what they can't control. This focus creates positive emotions that fuel positive actions that create positive results. The 14th principle of correct thinking involves understanding the importance of continuous learning and improvement. In a rapidly changing world, what got you here won't get you there. The knowledge that made you successful yesterday may not be sufficient for tomorrow's challenges. The skills that served you well in the past may become obsolete in the future. Successful people understand this reality, so they make continuous learning a way of life. They're constantly reading, studying, and seeking new information. They attend seminars, take courses, and seek out mentors. They see themselves as students, regardless of their age or level of success. This commitment to continuous learning keeps their thinking fresh and current. It exposes them to new ideas, new perspectives, and new possibilities. It helps them anticipate changes and adapt quickly when change occurs. It ensures that they continue to grow and improve throughout their lives. But continuous learning is not just about acquiring information. It's about developing wisdom, the ability to apply knowledge effectively. It's about learning from your experiences, both positive and negative. It's about understanding yourself better, understanding others better, and understanding the world better. The people who succeed in the long term are not necessarily the smartest people or the most talented people. They're the people who never stop learning, never stop growing, and never stop improving. They understand that in the game of life, you're either growing or you're dying. There is no standing still. Make continuous learning a priority in your life. Set aside time each day for reading, thinking, and reflecting. Seek out new experiences that challenge you and help you grow. Surround yourself with people who can teach you something. Remember, the more you learn, the more you can earn. The more you know, the more you can grow. The 15th and final principle of correct thinking that I want to share with you today is about understanding the power of gratitude and appreciation. This might seem like a soft concept in a discussion about success and achievement, but don't be fooled. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces in human experience, and it's absolutely essential for correct thinking. When you think with gratitude, several important things happen. First, you focus on what's working in your life, rather than what's not working. This positive focus attracts more positive experiences. Second, you develop an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. You realize that there's already plenty of good in your life, which opens you up to receive even more. Third, you become more aware of opportunities and resources that you might otherwise overlook. Gratitude also improves your relationships with other people. When you're grateful for what others do for you, they want to do more. When you appreciate people, they feel valued and respected, which makes them more likely to support your goals and dreams. Perhaps most importantly, gratitude keeps you grounded and prevents you from taking your blessings for granted. Success can sometimes make people arrogant or complacent. Gratitude keeps you humble and reminds you that your success is not just the result of your own efforts, but also the result of countless contributions from other people, opportunities that came your way, and circumstances that worked in your favor. I want you to make gratitude a daily practice. Each morning before you start your day, think about 3 things you're grateful for. Each evening before you go to bed, reflect on the good things that happened during the day. When you encounter challenges, look for something to be grateful for within that challenge. When someone does something nice for you, no matter how small, acknowledge it and express your appreciation. This practice will transform your thinking and ultimately your life. You'll find yourself focusing more on opportunities than obstacles, more on what you have than what you lack, more on what's possible than what's impossible. Now let me bring all of these principles together for you. Correct thinking is not just about applying 1 or 2 of these principles. It's about integrating all of them into a comprehensive approach to life. It's about making these principles so much a part of your thinking that they become automatic, natural, and instinctive. When you think in terms of cause and effect, you take responsibility for your results. When you think in terms of possibilities, you see opportunities everywhere. When you think about solutions, you become a problem solver. When you think about what you want, you attract it into your life. When you think long term, you make better decisions. When you think about value, you make better investments. When you understand compound effect, you develop patience and persistence. When you commit fully, you find ways to succeed. When you take responsibility, you empower yourself. When you choose your associations carefully, you accelerate your growth. When you develop a growth mindset, you become unstoppable. When you have a clear purpose, you have direction and motivation. When you manage your thoughts, you control your emotions and actions. When you keep learning, you keep growing. When you practice gratitude, you attract abundance. These principles work together synergistically. Each one reinforces the others. As you develop skill in one area, it becomes easier to develop skill in the others. As you apply these principles consistently, they become habits. As they become habits, they transform your character. As your character changes, your destiny changes. But remember, knowing these principles is not enough. You must apply them. You must practice them daily until they become second nature. You must use them to guide your decisions, shape your actions, and create your future. The choice is yours. You can continue thinking the way you've always thought and get the results you've always gotten. Or you can learn to think correctly and create the life you've always wanted. You can remain a victim of your circumstances, or you can become the architect of your destiny. You can let your thinking be shaped by accident, or you can shape your thinking by design.